Hello, everybody. This is Anthony for Investors Underground. Today, I have the opportunity to speak with one of the core members of the Investors Underground team. He managed to combine his skill set as a computer programmer with his passion for trading. The result are all of the technical resources and tools that Investors Underground members see and use every single day. It is my pleasure to introduce Max. Hello, Max. Thank you for being here and taking the time to speak with me today.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Max, I have so many questions about how you manage to combine programming with trading, but maybe we could just start at the most basic. How did you first get interested in the stock market?
Well, I guess it goes probably way back. I guess, like everybody else, I saw the movie Wall Street when I was a kid. And I guess after seeing Gordon Gekko and seeing all the money and the lifestyle involved with it, it kind of just piqued an interest with me as a kid. I think the first time I really had any exposure to it was later on when I was working for a major manufacturing company in their IT department, and the CIO that I reported to, he would buy and sell stocks, I guess, more in a swing trading time frame. And we just started looking at stocks, and he would tell me, try to find these stocks that have some kind of negative news, get pulled way down, that are good, solid companies, and buy them. So that was just kind of my first exposure. After that, I ended up getting my first E-Trade account and, put a couple $1,000s into it, or maybe $5,000. And I think at that point I found some some of those Yahoo group message groups. And I kind of got into following some medical stocks. I guess a lot of people have had some exposure to that at some point. And just getting into these pump and dumps where I was following the lead of someone and in the end just getting dumped on. So I ended up losing some money there. And then, I kind of just started trading on my own. And at that time, I didn't even know what margin was or really anything. Had some beginner's luck, made 500 here, 1,000 here. And these were more like swing trades over a couple of days. And then I finally lost it all. Replenished the account. And at that point, I found, I think it was, started doing search for day trade. I figured out what margin was about and how I could capitalize on that. And started following Tim Sykes, which led me to Investors Underground in the end. And so that's how I got from there to here.
What's your background in terms of the technology side? How did you first learn to program? How early was that in your life?
So originally, my goal was my family was originally from New York, migrated to Dallas, and my grandfather built a large textile manufacturing company with locations in several cities. It was very successful. All of his sons joined the company. And so ever since I was a little kid, that was my dream, to be part of this textile company. But throughout this whole time, since I was a little kid, I always had an interest in computers. I mean, I was kind of like a hacker, but not in, I guess, nothing illegal, but I was just interested in programming and course, games and just anything that had to do with the computer. Just night and day, I was on the computer ever since I guess I was about 12 years old. Um, of course, I don't know if you've seen the movie War Games, but that was a big one for me, big turning point. And ever since then, I it's just been a big part of my life daily. Uh, I ended up working for the family business uh, after school, and I found out I just absolutely hated it. After having that dream for my entire life from a little kid, I just found I hated it. Uh, so I started my own little computer business. My brother was attending SMU in Dallas, and we set up a small computer store that was a couple of blocks down the street from SMU. And it was very successful at first. This was the time when people were, it was really, Dell existed, Dell and some of the competitors, but people were really buying these mom and pop computers where you'd go to a small store, you'd get a really good deal on a custom built computer. So we built computers. Uh, we also did service. And that's kind of where I started branching out really big on the IT consulting part. One of my old customers from the computer store came to me with a proposition. And he said, one of my customers is looking to build small companies and then take them public. It has to be a legitimate company with customers. You take it public, and then it will be reverse merged with companies that are looking to go public really quickly. So it kind of reminds me of what we see today as far as SPACs. So I made the decision at that point, talked to my wife, and I decided to take the leap and start my own company with this partner. So we started this company that was creating, or the technology was remote backup. Uh, Back then, there weren't many players in the field, but if you remember, you could sign up and have all of your data backed up online. We were targeting at the time corporate customers only. And so we built up this company. I handled all the technology, and this was really my first time that I was actually creating or programming technology from scratch. I built up the entire system. He handled all the paperwork as far as SEC filing and so forth. And after several tries, we finally got the company public. And at this point, we started shopping it around for someone who was interested in this shell. And so we shopped it around for a while we kept building up a customer base. And finally, it happened. Company paid us cash and gave us stock, and we sold the company. I remember at the time, I had just started, I had just found Investors Underground. I don't know if it was through doing some searches for day trading on Google or somehow through finding Timothy Sykes first, but I joined, and I became friends with Nate, and I still remember that after I got these shares through this reverse merger deal, I remember telling Nate and him telling me, you need to sell those shares immediately because that's going to go to zero. It was an OTC stock, and the company was going to try to uplist to NASDAQ in the future. And they were telling me, hold on to it. This might become worth hundreds of thousands to $1 million. And I wasn't sure. I had very little experience with the whole process. And sure enough, Nate was right. It went to zero. But I did take his advice and at least sell half of it. So that was basically how I got into my initial uh, how I got into programming and how I started developing products. That was my first bout. Later, with this same partner, we also attempted to create another process which had to do with email archival, which was kind of a really popular technology at the time. And that's when I had really started doing a lot of different things for Nate. Um, and he was making a big transition. And he asked me, could you just build out the infrastructure for Investors Underground?
And it sounded like you already had sort of a relationship, or you had reached out to Nate. So can you talk a little bit about that relationship? What year or time frame was this, and was that the early days of Investors Underground?
Yes, I think I even looked recently. I was probably one of the first 100 that had joined, thinking it was somewhere probably around 13 years ago. And I joined at the time they had a trial. I joined the trial. Then I liked what I saw. I signed up. Um, and they were using a product called Parachat, and it was based on Java. Uh, as you recall, back then in those days, Java was kind of popular and really no longer exists. And so Nate was struggling with a couple of things. Like on a daily basis, he had to manually go log into Parachat, copy the logs, paste them on his website. And I remember seeing some of these efficiencies and and thinking, I think I can help him out with this. Uh, and I'm trying to remember how it came about, but I think I emailed him and said, "Hey, I think I can build a script that auto logs into Parachat and takes care of all of this." So he said, "You know what? Go ahead and try it." I did, and it all worked, and saved him a lot of time. I remember he was really happy about it, and that just kind of started a little friendship and like a little. We I started doing different things for him on the technology side.
So you went from being a user of the service to actually helping build it out. What sort of tools were available to traders during those early days of Investors Underground? Because I'm assuming there's a lot less tools back then than we have now.
Yeah, I really don't even remember there being any tools except for the actual posts by, different members. I don't think there was anything else. Yeah, it was just a chat room. Parachat definitely did not cater in any way to traders. It was just a general chat. And I remember some of the funny things about it is, as you notice now with Investors Underground, all the mods have a different color. And back then, you just changed your own color. And I remember a new member would come in, and all of a sudden they'd change their color, and they'd get told by Nate, "Hey, change that color back to black. No one's allowed to do that but mods." And I remember that was one of the first things that we built into the new chat. Uh, but yeah, I don't think there was anything except quality posts from the moderators.
Yeah, Investors Underground has definitely come a long way since those days. And
Yes.
you're, for the most part, the person to thank in terms of the technical ability to make these tools and to manage them. So thank you for that, Max. And
Well, you're welcome.
one of the questions that I have is about you and your trading. So in addition to programming all of these great tools, You're also a trader yourself. So, Max, can you tell us a little bit about your trading style?
So my trading style is mostly news oriented, catalyst events. That that's the way I've transitioned. So I really like the analytics side, and I'm constantly trying to build things into chat for that. Um, the time that I trade the most is just like sometimes pre-market, but mostly the opening hour. But I like trend trades, following the trend, earnings, any kind of big news catalyst, things like that. And trading long for the most part, stocks that are moving, from the lower left hand corner to the top right and pulls against the trend, stuff like that. Occasionally, I will play some of these low float plays. Uh, I used to really love playing, um, you know, eh, these stocks that have high, a lot of action going on. They're halting. Uh, they they're they're pulling back, halt on a pullback, wash out long type of plays. So, and I'll occasionally still do that, but I found more success with the bigger stocks.
Yeah, there's definitely a number of tools that come to mind when I think about your trading style and what we see in the IU room. I'd imagine some of those tools sort of came from necessity for yourself, but there's a lot of other traders, myself included, who do like some of these catalysts and live news or breaking news sort of trades. Um, what was the first tool that you made for yourself or programmed for yourself that was really catered to your trading style?
With some of these plays where you're doing looking for a washout long, that's where I originally got the idea for the Halt Monitor uh, and countdown. So if you can imagine a stock has just ran 10, 20%, 30, 100%, and now it's pulled back severely and it's dropped into a halt. And based on, support levels, I would be looking, I'd be waiting for the stock to unhalt so that I could go long at it halted, let's say at 1050, and I might be looking to take it long at 1005, assuming that it flushes right after that halt. And one problem I saw is, even though it's really an easy calculation, it's going to halt for 5 minutes, you really need to be paying attention to when it opens. So even looking and calculating the 5 minutes, then keep looking back at the clock, was a burden. And so I came up with the idea of this Halt Monitor and the countdown voice for the last 10 seconds. And I just recently added, just last week, where the countdown actually flashes as well for the last 10 seconds, plus being able to monitor multiples, being because of our recent volatility with all the bank stocks.
How do you manage to balance your time between being a trader and creating new tools and maintaining the tools?
Well, you focus on the times where you feel like you can make the best trades for your style. And so mine are right at the open. So I take that first 30 minutes to an hour, focus on that. And then the rest of the day, I'm still focusing on the market completely, watching what's happening, what members are doing, what different improvements I might make, and, programming. But some of the other features that I created kind of help me. So I may be programming, and then all of a sudden, if I hear the HOD scanner, one of those voices say, stock XYZ is running and, HOD hitting high of day really hard, then I can turn around and see, is this going to be some kind of opportunity that I can get in? So what I'm saying is some of the features I built allows you to turn away and do some work on the side and still see if any really, really good opportunities arise.
Max, what does the tech stack look like? And are you focused more on the front end, like visualizations, or do you tend to focus on more of the back end, like databases and APIs and things like that?
Once you go to the IU website and you click on uh, the button to launch the chat, everything from then on in is what I'm creating. So it's the front and the back side, database, APIs, you name it. Just everything that runs the chat itself and all the different pop-up features.
I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the features that are available in the pre-market section because I've definitely seen the number of tools and features increase in the past year alone. There's, for example, data streams from the web or places like Twitter or emails that come directly into the Momo chat. Can you talk a little bit about how those features came into being and what their origin is?
I guess I've been tapped into Twitter using a push feed from them for many, many years. We found several really good news Twitter accounts that feed us these news catalysts
Tweet by Adam F.
in basically almost real time. So we push those into the chat. And I'm always looking for new Twitter accounts that have some kind of valuable information or actionable tweets for the members. We also started sending in different newsletters that might have something of interest to the members.
There's also company data that's available anytime someone mentions a ticker. If you click on the ticker, you can see some information
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah.
that company. Can you talk a little bit about what data is
Sure.
available there?
So off of this ticker menu, you've got various pieces of data that you can get for each ticker. I think the most used features from that menu are to search the history logs to see what members, especially mods, have had to say about that ticker today or any day in the past. And also the float data. That's a big one to instantly get an idea of the float, number of shares, et cetera, for that ticker, and then get the latest breaking news.
How many different data sources or APIs would you guess you're pulling in just these couple features alone?
I mean, there's quite a bit, and there's quite a few pages that we actually get information from off the front side as well.
One of the other tools that I wanted to ask about is the pre-market scanner. This is a great way for traders to get a glimpse of what's moving, where there might be more volume. So, can you talk a little bit about how the pre-market scanner came into existence and how traders might be able to benefit from it?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was running kind of my own uh, home built scanner, and I would kind of figure out what was moving and what had a catalyst. And I had a little button, I'd click on it, and it would go into this morning movers console, just so people could know what was going on. And after time, either I wasn't at my desk by the time some traders were looking for the data, or I had to go somewhere, take my daughter to school, etc. I decided, let me just start working on a complete pre-market scanner. Um, and so I did that.
Max, you also have a most mentioned ticker tool. Where is that information coming from?
I started looking at a way to get the Wall Street bets data live. And then I decided, you know what? I think people will also like to see what's most mentioned on Twitter. Because in addition to the scanners and you got the HOD, LOD scanner, got pre-market scanner. This tells you what's moving, but the most mentioned tickers also tells you what people are looking at, what people have FOMO for, etc. So that's where that came into play. And so now we've got a console that lists the Wall Street bets most mentioned, the Twitter most mentioned, and the actual chat most mentioned in graph form. So you can glance at it and kind of see what's hot.
One of the other tools that's extremely uh, useful, probably one of the more useful, arguably, is the price alerts. So, can you talk about the price alerts tool and how traders might be able to benefit from using that?
Sure, sure. So the thought process was, let's have price alerts, live price alerts that would come directly into the chat so your eyes stay on that. You've got your charts, you've got chat, and that's really all you need. I ended up, as I try to do with everything, is I used to use DAS price alerts. And to me, it was kind of clunky. You had to go through all these different steps to set a price alert. So whenever I build a tool, I try to look at how can I improve it, make it quick and efficient. So the price alerts we have here, kind of my own spin on how to set them up and set them up quickly. And then they come into directly into the chat. You've got a sound that alerts you, a really prominent honking sound,
Ticker MLTX
and
is at or below your
and a
target
voice
price of 50
that
even.
tells you whether it reads out the ticker and tells you whether it's up or down.
It's a great tool that I've used a few times, definitely, and has kept me safe in trades. So
Great.
thank you for making that. And then last but not least, there's Nate's 8:50 a.m. morning call. Um, can you talk a little bit about that and what that was like to set up? Because there's a very live component to that where Nate's able to share his
Yes,
screen.
yes.
So could you talk a little bit about that?
And I mean, I didn't develop the back-end technology, but it's
Broadcast is
a
live.
video broadcast program or server component that you install on your own server, and then you're able to modify it and manage it yourself. And so we did that, and the goal was, you know, I'm going to push in a little link, you click on it, and that's it. Sub, no other issues, it's there. And I remember it was very tricky because it takes a lot of bandwidth for this type of thing. And so when we had a lot of users, I had to keep upgrading it, actually setting up multiple servers so that once the load got too high on one server, it would push to the next server. And for the most part, it's ended up working great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favorite parts of the morning, and one of my favorite experiences in IU are those morning broadcasts where Nate
Yes.
shares his thoughts on the overall market and some tickers that he's looking to trade with important levels to keep in mind. So absolutely. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the intraday features, Max, because there's several of them that I think are really, really helpful to traders that you really only get in IU. Everything from tape bursts to volatility halts. Can you maybe talk us through some of those features?
Sure. So we went over the volatility halts, which is one of the most used features. The tape bursts are relatively new, probably about 9 months old, something like
GOLD
that.
500% best.
And because what I use for the price alerts, and the price alerts have been around for several years, I use a live data feed of every
V500%
single
best.
trade on the market. And so I guess I was just playing around and thinking, if I count all of these trades, first of all, we can get a graph for that. And that's another feature is the most active tickers. So trades are a little different than volume. You get the number of trades, and I guess it's a little more ticker neutral, I want to say, because number of trades is going to be the same across all price ranges. I created the most active tickers graph to show what is the most active stock. And if you have that console open, you're always going to know what's the most traded tickers. There's no way that a ticker is going to be going wild without being on this console. So then I started thinking, well, me and some of the members were looking at it, and all of a sudden you'd see one of the graphs, like it shows what does it show? The top 5, top 10. And all of a sudden you'd see one of these bars just spike violently. And you knew, well, this ticker was really in play. So I started thinking, well, what if I just count these using a different program? Same data, but I'm going to count them, and I'm going to measure with an algo I created, kind of the average amount of trades that tickers have. And when one just has an unusual burst of trades, I'm going to push that alert live into chat. And it's worked really great. Anytime it really complements the other tools because it doesn't take the place of the pre-market, intraday, or the high of day, low of day scanner, but it catches these kind of like unusual bursts or trades where it might be a big event, a big news event, and this thing either goes sky high or gets sold off massively. And it's worked in several instances really, really well.
And those tape bursts are customizable per user. Is that accurate?
Yes, they can determine how high above the threshold they want to be alerted to. So that basically means how high above this threshold do you want to be alerted to? And by default, everybody gets to 3,000 because if that hits, it's just really unusual. And then they can customize the ones under that. And it's caught some really, really big movers.
That's excellent. And I love that it's customizable so that the user can decide what they want that threshold to be.
Right, right.
Another great tool is with IPOs and getting alerted when a new ticker is trading. Can you talk a little bit about when that occurred and the origin of that feature?
I guess there was a time about a year ago, 2 years ago, when it seemed like every single IPO that opened up just started going crazy at a time. I don't know if you remember that. I think these times come and go. Right now may not be that time. But yeah, I started getting the data from a site to list the IPOs that were going to be released for that day. And I post those twice in the morning. And then I monitor each one for the second that they start trading, millisecond really, and post into the chat with a voice. XYZ IPO is now trading, and the number of, the number of shares it's starting with.
And then there's a number of scanners, and these are some of my personal favorite. There's the high of day scanner, low of day scanner. Can you talk about how those can be useful for traders as well?
Yeah. So both the high of day and the low of day, they each work on their own time period. which I think is a little different from how any of the others work. So during the pre-market, it's going to alert you to anything that hits a high or a low. And if it starts hitting the high of day over 20 times in a short period, you're going to hear a female voice mention it with the ticker symbol.
MEDS,
And then
high
in
of
that
day
same
20
short
plus
time
rapid
period,
hits.
if it goes all the way to 50, you're going to hear a male voice.
TSLA.
And so
high
that
of
kind of
day 50 plus
differentiates
rapid
and
hit.
lets you know that we've got, if it's a male voice, you know, something's really hitting high of day or low of day. I put my own spin on this as well with the button bar. Basically, it shows the top 5 tickers that are hitting high of day or low of day, and they will flash if they get over 20 to let you know that this is really hitting high of day or low of day. So that makes our high of day and low of day scanner different, in my opinion, than any other. And then as far as what I was saying about the time periods is, once your intraday time period starts at 9:30, it gets reset. And then it resets again at 4 p.m. So if you have it up after 4 p.m., again, you're going to know what is hitting high or low instantly. Whereas if it was using the same time period of the intraday, and there might be a wide band there,
Can you talk a little bit about what's in the intraday scanner?
I've created groups, ticker groups, kind of like sectors. But to me, they're more groups that are more like sympathy tickers. So they each have an icon, so it catches your eye. And right now, what I'm working on, and some of them are clickable. So the idea is that, let's say you've got a Chinese basket of stock, they start running. You can click on the little Chinese inscription icon, and it'll instantly filter, here's all your China stocks. So you can see this group is running pretty hard, and what are our laggards? So that's one thing. And then it's got the tags column. And the tags column was my way of showing live why the sticker might be running. So on a normal scanner, you see in other places, I mean, you see the ups and downs, but you really don't, all you know is the price action, it's running or it's falling, but you don't know why. So on all of my scanners, you can click on any row, of course, and you're going to get the latest news. You're going to get Twitter mentions for that ticker. But with this tags column, it's going to try to show you with little symbols why it's running. There's like a tag for earnings, like it had earnings this morning. It had an upgrade, it had a downgrade. There'll be a little fire, little flame there, and the flame means that it's using that ticker count to show this has an unusual amount of trades going on. That's how I was trying to differentiate my scanner from anything else out there.
After the market session closes and we get extended hours trading, there's still many tools and features and resources that are available to IU members. I know there's a scanner for, after hours trading as well. Is it safe to say that that scanner is similar to the others, or is there anything in particular that you focus on with the after hours?
The after hours is similar to the others, but it time resets too. And that was important to me because everything zeroes out there, the volume, the high and low, etc. So you can track the after hours separately.
And there's a number of filters that are available as well, right? In the after hours scanner.
Right. On the after hours and the pre-market, you can create your own filters. I think you can do that with most scanners. I also added something shared filters. There's a shared section, so someone who does know how to make the filters creates one or many, clicks to have it shared, and then other members can just click on the shared tab, can click on his filter and instantly have it loaded as his own. So I myself created what I think are several great filters for each time period, and actually many members have clicked on them to use them.
Well, if it's okay with you, Max, I'd love to go through a little bit of like a lightning round set of questions, quick answers, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
What would you say to those who believe that the only way to have an impact in trading is to be an active multi-millionaire trader?
Like with me, it's possible to balance your trading with some other type of career. Uh, Now, there's many traders that I know that they like to focus completely on trading, and they're able to make a great living out of it. But that takes a lot of time, a lot of experience. So yeah, you can balance trading with some other career, some other project, and I mean, it's not necessary to just go, for the millionaire status right away.
Is there one or two tools or features that you are most proud of?
Well, as of late, right now is the high of day and low of day scanner. And also when you look at the price alerts, we our members have a total of 15,000 price alerts right now. I've got like a little indicator I can look at. So we're measuring 15,000 price alerts against 7,000 tickers every few milliseconds. It's incredible.
What feature or tool do you think is most underutilized or overlooked?
Well, right now, I would say the high of day and low of day, because I also monitor how many users are using all my different tools. I think overall in chat, unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand what tools are available. I can print it in chat 5 times a day, and then we'll talk about it in the lounge, and someone will ask, how do you do XYZ after it's already been posted 5 times? Another one that's underused is that Twitter feed. I'm sure you've seen that. Uh, Not everybody has it on. We try to tell people about turning it on. I think that getting this, almost live news feeds through these various Twitter accounts is something that everybody should have turned on.
Which programming languages do you primarily use to build some of your tools?
Primarily, I use PHP and Node, which is an
Low day over 20.
and Node, which is an offset of JavaScript. Um, I know a lot of programmers in finance like to use Python. I've never really liked Python. I'm very good at PHP. I can do anything that Python can do with PHP. But I've started converting a lot to Node, which is a really nice back-end JavaScript language that's really fast. There's some things you can't do with PHP that you can do with Node, like parallel processing. Uh, but that is the back end of some of these new tools. Um, but for the most part, other than that, all PHP. And of course, HTML and CSS and all of that for the front end design.
And are there any limitations or difficulties with maintaining or updating some of these tools over time?
Not really. I've built myself a set of monitors that tells me that everything's running right at the right speed and so forth. I still do have some issues with the actual speed at certain times of the day, like right at 9:30. So that's something that I'm working on right now, just to enhance the speed. Um, but overall, not really. I'm always adding new features, and I'll test them on a test system. Copy the live code to my test system, test the feature, and then go live. Um, I've always been really good at, it doesn't take me a long time to get if I'm actually working on a feature, uh, to actually get it live. I think of an idea or I need to update something. I just do it and get it updated. I think that's one of the differences between having someone that is here and understands trading versus having a third party do your programming that doesn't even understand the market at all.
And is there a dream tool that you would love to build or make at some point?
I'd like a console that shows, you know, how many people are looking at it on Twitter. Um, what's the price action look like? What are the upgrades, downgrades? And maybe you have some nice visual graphs to narrow this down to what are the hottest tickers that are making a move.
What advice would you give people out there who are interested in combining their passion with trading with a skill set that they have, whether that's programming or something else?
Find your niche, what time of the day you'd like to trade, um, put some time into trading, and then, you know, spend the rest of the day working on, whatever else you wanna work on.
Last question, Max. For those who are interested in learning more about you or how you trade, how can they do so?
Well, it's funny, for the last 10 years, I've been trying to get the Twitter handle, Day Ranger, which is a name I came up with about probably 10, 12 years ago. And I finally got it, so I've started to post there in the last 6, 9 months. So it's at Day Ranger. And I plan on starting to post a lot more, just kinda like anybody else does, stuff about stocks, maybe a little about what I'm doing on the off time and so forth, things like that. Other than that, anybody's, free to get in contact with me at any time in the chat. That red question mark on either chat, you click it and you get a direct line to me.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, Max. It's been a pleasure, and I think it'll be really helpful for traders out there to think about some of the tools that IU offers that you've made, and maybe alternatives that they have, or maybe think about coming and checking out IU.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. It was a pleasure.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Thanks for watching.